Hi everyone and welcome to this flipped classroom video. Today I'm going to be talking about theme and inference. So in the novel that we've been reading, Esperanza Rising, theme is very important because it comes up a lot. So something that we've been going over is how theme is just the main idea of or the moral of the story. A lot of times the main idea is stated directly, so it tells the reader exactly what to think about. But in other times, the theme is not so clear. So that's when we have to inference and we have to just bring the clues together and really analyze what the theme is. We also talked about there being more than one theme in some novels or books. And excuse me, for Esperanza Rising, we have come across multiple themes. So the following are examples of some of the themes that we've come across. And some of those are perseverance. And for this one, we've talked about how Esperanza's life just changed from when she was a little girl, and a lot of events that happened in her life just changed her life and were challenging for her. So she really did struggle, but she continued. And with the strength of that she had and the strength of her family, they just came together. Another theme that came up was starting over. Then we went to prejudice and upward social mobility and the American dream, hope, social class, and family. And something that we discussed in class, and we had charts about this, is that a lot of themes come up more than once, and themes are part of other themes. So we can combine some of those. Like, for example, the theme of family came up a lot in the novel, and we were able to connect it to other themes. We have also been discussing inferencing, and in class we've talked about how when we're inferencing, we have to figure out what we're reading or what they're trying to tell us. Sometimes the clues are not all there, so we have to put the pieces together. And like the difference between inference and observation is that when it's an observation, you can see when something's happening, it's right there. But when you're inferencing, you just really have to think about things and explain why those clues or why what you're reading make you think a certain way. So for our last two lessons for this novel, like to finish it up, I'm going to do a quick review on what we've done so far, and then that's going to lead me into what's next. So for our lesson review, we will tap into prior, for the lesson review, we'll tap into prior knowledge and just review what we did. So before we even started reading the novel, we did the sheet that's on the screen, and it was just a KWL chart about the 1930s. So what do you want to know? What do you know? What do you know? What do you want to know? And what did you learn? The K is the one that stands for what do I know? And for this one, you guys did it on your own. You just wrote what you knew. And then from there, we went to what do you want to know about the 1930s? And this one, you worked with a partner to come up with 3 details. And before we filled the column for what I learned, we read this paper. And we really took our time. This took us more than a day to talk about, because as a class, we really did want to have a feel for when the novel took place. So we just talked about the Great Depression, because this novel did take place during the Great Depression. And, we just highlighted some points about how it started back in 1929 and it lasted 10 years, and banks didn't have money. People didn't have jobs. Families had to move, and, they started migrating to the West Coast. And then we went into immigration and the Mexican Revolution, prejudice towards others, strikers, and that's how we were able to finish the last column of our KWL chart. So also, all periods have this on their Google Docs. So in your Google Classroom, I created a little section that has this note-taking graphic organizer. So after every read aloud, every chapter, every time we read, you were given time to fill this out. So all of you have this. Some of you have more than one per per chapter, and it's totally fine because you're just going to have more details, more information for your last project. So just make sure that every section that you have is filled out because this is going to come in handy for your last assignment. Okay, so for your new assignment, there's 2 parts to it. And the first part, we've done this before. We did this first trimester. Let me go to the next slide. And we're going to do this 3-part graphic organizer for the character. And you're going to explain the beginning, middle, and end events that took place in the beginning, middle, and end of the book and how they helped Esperanza change. So now going back, you will be able to explain how the character developed through the story using your inference skills. So we've been working on inferencing and theme this whole trimester, this whole novel. So you guys just are experts at this already. You're doing an amazing job. So now it's time to put your inference skills into this final project. So we're going to do the same thing as we did last time. We're going to pick a quote and then just write the details about it and just inference what we think it means, and then go from there. So for example, I chose this quote that was in the middle of the book. In the middle of the story, and this was when they were on the train, and it was when Mama and Hortensia and Esperanza and Miguel were all traveling to California, and Esperanza didn't want to share her doll with the little girl. And so the mom of that little girl was sitting next to them. And it says she has 8 children and sells eggs to survive. Yet when she can barely afford it, she gave your mother 2 hens and helped the crippled woman, said Miguel. The rich take care of the rich and the poor take care of those who have less than they have. So this was the part when Miguel kind of confronted Esperanza and just made her realize, you had a very sheltered upbringing. And so for my detail, I just wrote a quick notes on what I read. So they were all on the train and they sat next to a lady with 8 children who shared her hens. Miguel confronted Esperanza about her sheltered upbringing. And I wrote the paragraph and the page where I found it at. So you need at least 3 events for each section of your graphic organizer. And you have a copy of this in your portfolio. So the one for first trimester should still be in your portfolio. If not, I might have a copy in my drive so you can see me if you need a refresher on this. Also, if you want to do your graphic organizer on a piece of paper, I will go ahead and take a picture and then we can drag it into your Esperanza Rising portfolio. Or you can do it under Google Drawings, and that'll be fine to turn in as well. Okay, so that was your first part, just categorizing the events from beginning, middle, and end. So now your second part will be your timeline of events. So for this one, you're going to put the events in order. And I need a visual for every event. So for example, you're going to, again, cite your evidence, cite where you're finding this, and you're going to tell me, for example, page number 20. And you are allowed to use 2 of these examples, but not copy all of them. So page 20, when Esperanza's father died, and I need a visual. This says R.I.P., rest in peace. And why was this important? This was important because that's when her father died and her life started to dramatically change. Then you need to label every section of your timeline. You must have